You see, when you speak of a shotgun, you're not speaking about a long shotgun, okay? You're speaking about a shotgun, all right? You're speaking about a shotgun that you can stick right here and pull out, you know, and shoot 2 times. You know, you're talking about a sawed-off.
You gotta put them away.
Well, we're trying.
Yeah, you gotta put them away.
And we got 24 names we're trying to put away. Yeah, see, we got a list there.
The police and sheriff's anti-gang units make it their business to know the gangs and their members. Now they are setting out to round up the bounty hunters suspected of attacking the Hawkins.
I'm requesting a black and white coat.
Like I said, we know who the guy is, so we know who we're looking for.
You still want to come with us? Or
Yeah, our man is right back there with a black jacket walking. Okay, hopefully he won't run, because he thinks he's cool.
At 1575 requesting a black and white coat to on fire.
A male Negro wearing a black jacket, a black hat, dark pants. Last name is Williams. He might not know he's wanted. He could have just split because he might have had a gun on him or had some dope on him or something.
199, 13841, code 2.
We're on 52 Place. You got your light right on us right now.
You see, they got most of them. They got about 15, 20 of them in jail.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure off us.
Then I decided, well, I'm going to turn my son in. And I carried him out to the Linwood police, and I turned him in myself. And I proceeded to tell them that he's in good health, and if you jump on him or beat him up, I'm going to sue you.
Mrs. Willis has turned her son, Louis, into the county sheriff's. Special prosecutors of the district attorney's hardcore division are preparing a case against Louis Williams and other suspects based on conspiracy law. But before they can bring the charge against the 14 defendants in a trial, they must convince a judge in a pretrial hearing that they have reasonable evidence that a conspiracy existed. In charge of prosecuting these defendants, Assistant District Attorney Fred Horn. Mrs. Willis's son, Louis, is a juvenile, but he is being tried as an adult, and his greatest fear is that he will be locked up with adults.
He said, well, Mama, God answered my prayer. At least I'm not going to the jail, even though I'm going to another juvenile. He says, I'm not going down there to that jailhouse.
In undertaking to prosecute 14 defendants at once, Horn must face 14 defense attorneys. But behind Horn is the hardcore division and its approach to conspiracy law.
See, gang cases are very difficult. Gangs are group crimes. Very difficult to use the old one-on-one, the car theft type of stuff. And we have a common law history that groups are more dangerous to the community than the single person. Hence, we have conspiracy laws.
In other words, if only half of those 14 people had guns and fired at the house, the other half, or the other 7, are still going to be held accountable for it because they're part of the group, part of the conspiracy. They're all going to be off the street for, I think, a period of time. Some of them a long period of time. So they're going to get, I think, substantial prison terms, even the youthful offenders.
Go home first and then the truth, so I'll be back.
God.
This is a high-security courtroom with bulletproof glass and armed marshals. The pretrial hearing is a trial in itself. 3 weeks of witnesses and testimony to help the judge decide, is there enough evidence that a conspiracy to attack the Hawkins existed and that these defendants participated? Evidence enough to bind them over to trial. Early in the hearing, James Hawkins was asked a key question. Could he identify any of the defendants?
When you thought about testifying, you looked at these kids, you believe actually all these kids were there, although you can't identify them.
I can't identify.
Gang members are used to this, witnesses and victims not being able to identify them. But 2 witnesses are here who saw everything and are not intimidated. Hawkins' daughter Cynthia and his son Elton.
I was in the north window of the residence, on the garage of the resident there. And
Who else was with you?
Cynthia was there at the window. I had a pair of 1050 luminous field binoculars in my possession. And I was looking out of the across the street into the project area, and I observed suspect number 2.
Right, do you know this person?
Yes, I do.
Have you seen him before?
Yes, I have.
Somewhere in the neighborhood?
Yes, several times.
Out of that group, did you recognize any other people?
Yes, I did.
Who was that?
I recognized number 5. He was one of the guys that was with them.
Is that you, Mr. John Switzer?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
One of them fired approximately 3 rounds off. I then...
Let me ask you this. Did you see a person firing your gun?
Suspect number 1.
Okay. Mr. Horton?
Right. 2 bullet holes came through this window, hitting the inner wall inside the residence, in the bathroom there. Bullets ricocheted and landed in the bathtub. And the officer here is pointing to a bullet hole that hit the top of the store there.
Bullet holes in that also?
Bullet holes in that also.
So after you heard these 40-some shots Monday night, when you said you ducked down, you stay in the roof?
I came off the roof when I heard the shotgun blast.
Early on, the defense attorneys tried to discredit the Hawkins family testimony by attacking the credibility of James Jr.
How much of the barrel protruded beyond the end of your hand?
Well, I had my hand was around the muzzle and the beginning of the barrel. It was a very short gun.
Your hand wasn't over the opening in the barrel, was it?
By no means was it over the muzzle, no sir.
Did your hand completely envelop the...
I was holding the barrel, to my knowledge. I remember holding the barrel.
Are you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm right-handed, sir.
Which hand did you hold the barrel with?
I remember holding it with my left hand, I believe, sir.
Your Honor, do you mind if I do a demonstration?
Yes, sir.
Okay, may I have Mr. Ray Newman assist me, Your Honor? Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, now, did he pull it? You said you had your hand on the barrel, didn't you?
Oh, yes, I did.
All right, why don't you use that newspaper as a barrel?
Okay, now, when I went to him, we started struggling right here.
You grabbed his hand?
Yes, we did.
Did he pull it out or you pull it out?
No, he pulled the gun out. I'm his struggling trying to protect my life, buddy.
All right, now you got your left hand on his hand?
Yes, I do.
And your right hand is on the barrel?
On the barrel, it is, correct.
Okay, and you have the gun raised up to about his chin level?
Right here. We were scrubbing, you know.
And don't knock Ray over. He's not this.
No, I realize it. We scrubbed trying to take it away from him, you know. And I don't know if it's hand here, but apparently, you know, at one point he was trying to push off and right around him, that's when the gun went off, boom, you know.
You had a hold of the barrel with your right hand.
You remember testifying the fact that you had the left hand on the barrel of the gun?
Yes, I did.
And when you had the demonstration out here, you had your right hand on the barrel of the gun. Is that right? Now, do you want to change your testimony, Mr. Hawkins?
I don't want to change it.
Which hand was it, Mr. Hawkins?
It was one of my hands on the barrel.
It was one of your hands, but you don't know which one. Is that right?
Isn't it true that you then went to your motor home and you got out a shotgun?
No, sir, I didn't.
And you brought that shotgun back to the arcade?
No, sir, I did not.
And you told those little kids, now run your mouth now?
I told them, no, sir.
You didn't tell them that?
Oh, of course not. No, I ain't told them
Isn't
that.
it true that you grabbed that young kid, Mr. Thomas, and pulled him out of the arcade?
No, sir, I
put a
didn't.
shotgun to his chest and put one bullet in his chest?
No, sir, I didn't. No, sir, I did not.
Isn't it true that you then ran away with the shotgun, and during the 22-hour period you were hiding from the law, you got rid of the shotgun?
No, sir, that is not true.
Now, Mr. Hawkins, you seem to be quite an expert in arms, as you indicated. When somebody's shot with a shotgun, which way do they go? Forward or backward?
Well, if someone is shot, I couldn't answer that, you know, because I'm not an expert on shooting people.
You've used a shotgun in a robbery before, haven't you?
I've never shot anyone, sir.
Never shot anyone?
No, sir.
Never shot anyone in a robbery. But there had been robberies by James Jr. with gun in hand.
Let's start off. You've had a conviction, felony conviction for postal robbery, is that right? You've had a felony conviction for bank robbery. You've had a felony conviction for possession of a sawed-off shotgun. You've had a felony conviction for escape. Okay, now, what other felony convictions have you had?
All judges being unresponsive, Your Honor. That's important to record witness.
And so this mother knows of fear for her son that this father has known for his son many times.
I feel like that as a mother, that somewhere, somehow, I missed the mark just a little bit. I mean, you know, not that I'm saying that all it is my fault.
It is not all the fault of Mrs. Willis or of this city, because across the country more young gang members are doing violence to citizens without qualm. It seems to be a breakdown of humanity in the name of belonging to a gang. Belonging where other belongings, to communities, to church, families, have ceased to exist. But even belonging to a family with a strong father present did not keep James Jr. from joining in the violence around him.
My mother and father was very close in church, and we was raised up in church. And we was always taught to do the right thing. Yeah, we was always taught to do the right thing. Don't lie, tell the truth, and us would always win. And that's the way that's the way I was brought. I taught all my, raised up my 14 kids.
You can love him so much, so rather than bring what you intend to come out, you can almost smother that. You know what I'm saying? In other words, bringing out the good, sometimes you bring out the opposite. And then with him not, with his father and I not being together, he said to me, Mama, who do I look up to?
Louis's sister brings her daughter to see her Uncle Louis.
You belong to any gang?
Yeah.
What gang do you belong to?
Bonnie.
How long have you belonged to that gang?
8 years.
8 years? Do you know any of the defendants in this case? The individual seated over the jury box?
Yes.
Just tell the court which ones you know.
1, 2, 3, 4, 14.
Know them all? Tell us then names, or tell us the numbers of those that were present then on that night.
7, 6, 13.
Number 13 is Louis Williams.
I knew number 13?
Right.
Yeah.
How long did you say you knew it?
About 9, 10 years.
They're friends of yours?
Yes.
You're testifying against them, is that right?
I don't know what they did.
You're here testifying against them, are you not, Mr. Carr?
I guess so.
You're putting them in a position where they're going to have to bear some criminal responsibility, is that right?
I wouldn't know.
For a gang member to testify against fellow gang members is to risk violent retribution. The district attorney has offered to relocate this witness, Benny Carr, in a secret location. Louis finds out that the next witness is a deputy who is about to read from a statement Louis gave the sheriffs.
Okay, he saw Snoop, D-Boy, Renzi, Dale, T-Bone, Fluky, Birdman Greg, Bob.
Once before, Louis felt the anger of the gang after he gave information to the police.
After he told them about the guys that did it, he came in 1 or 2 times. He had cigarette burns on his back. And then another time I had to rush outside and they were caught trying to make him, you know, suck their what's the name, you know.
But Louis wasn't the only defendant to give a statement. So did Curtis Johnson.
Someone in the group said, nah, they've already killed 2 people already and nobody's done anything about it. Let's go over there and shoot up the whole family. Said Renzi had a shotgun, he had a .38, Bob had a .32 semi-auto, Wee Wee had a .25 semi-auto, Imp had a .22 caliber machine gun, Hilltop had a .30 rifle.
Malcolm Horton also gave a statement to the sheriffs.
He heard the machine gun go off, and then everybody started firing. He fired twice, and then was shot in the buttocks by someone behind him.
So did Lorenzo Foreman, Bobby Brooks, Wallace Harris, Judge Mel Ricagna has heard descriptions of attacks on the Hawkins and efforts by the defense to suggest that James Jr. murdered Antoine Thomas. Now he orders cameras not to photograph a surprise witness for the defense, a passerby at the time of the shooting who does not know the Hawkins family. He claims he saw an older man shoot a younger man.
He had went into the back trailer and took out a shotgun.
Could you describe the shotgun for us?
It seemed to be illegal, sawed off. When the younger guy pushed away, like trying to break away, the gentleman reversed the angle of the shotgun and cornered it like in a slanting position, and it pressed up against the chest.
What did you see then?
The gun went off.
Whether or not James Jr. shot Antoine Thomas is legally irrelevant to the charges in this hearing, that a group conspired to and did attack the Hawkins family. Prosecutor Horn presses forward with his arguments that a conspiracy did exist.
As far as the establishing of a conspiracy goes, Your Honor, each and every witness that counsel mentioned, contrast to what counsel says and then not establishing a conspiracy, does just the opposite. The conduct of all the parties involved is what establishes the conspiracy, as in any other conspiracy. Granted, you must have the intent to agree and the intent to do the act. The intent in this case, like in most any other cases, as the court is well aware, I'm sure, where the intent is proven by the conduct of the individual.
I don't agree with counsel. The fact that people are standing across the street from a house and shooting at it doesn't mean that anybody's agreed to do that.
Because a conspiracy is proven by conduct. When you have a group of people that get together, several of them with guns and several of them with bottles with rags out of them, with liquid inside, and going across the street with a flare, it's clear that they aren't going over just to go trick-or-treating or something.
In the end, each of the 14 court-appointed attorneys for the defense tried to tell the court why his client should not be considered a member of a conspiracy. The attorney for Louis Williams is Victor Marin.
The only evidence that I heard that could even be argued to tie Mr. Williams into this was statement he gave to Deputy Castillo testified that there was no arrest warrant for Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams turned himself in. In conclusion, I don't see that they presented enough evidence to tie Mr. Williams into the conspiracy.
And Louis said he didn't know where the gun's coming from. And then he said he did pick up a gun, but then he gave it back to one of the guys. But what they got him for was that he went on around there with him.
I believe this defendant in his statement also admitted to picking up a gun and starting across the street with the gun, not completing that, but handing the gun to somebody else was his own admission.
I think that the person who tells the other guy to shoot the gun, or drives the car, or sets the other person up is just as culpable. And so in years past, they may have just gone after the shooter, or we started prosecuting everybody in the gang and making them equally culpable.
The inference is that their intent is to do what? To do harm. That's clearly the evidence that's stated by some of these individuals. We're going to get the Hawkinses, we're going to shoot them, we're going to burn them.
Because each of those statements that were offered to the declarant only, and that evidence is not in...
Prosecutor Horn argued that the testimony of Benny Carr and the statements of the defendants themselves proved a conspiracy.
William Moore, Louis Williams, Terry McMurray, guilty thereof by order of...
The judge ruled that for 13 of the 14 defendants, all except Albert Thornton, enough evidence existed to bind them over for trial. Evidence that they did conspire and attack the Hawkins.
The offense of shooting at an inhabited dwelling, I believe, carries, I think it's also 16, 2 or 3 years, the range of time that the judge can give an individual in prison.
I made a factual finding that, in fact, based on the evidence presented, that in fact there was a conspiracy. And after I made that factual finding, then I stated as to count 1, which is the conspiracy itself, I held everybody to answer except for one defendant. A conspiracy theory, I believe, is a tremendously powerful weapon of the prosecution. I think they should use it more.
Many of the major cities in the United States have a growing street gang problem. My recommendation to other jurisdictions is don't let it get this far. I think our experience should teach that we started doing it too late, that we should have taken this all-out war, a coordinated approach, if you will, on gangs much earlier, and we should start doing much more with parents and schools and other social institutions at a very early age to stop it in its tracks.
With the exception of our murder rate, which I'm a little distressed over because it's starting to creep back up, gang crime is still down over where it was last year at this time, which was down over the previous year. So we're still doing a good job.
A few weeks after the pretrial hearing, someone firebombed the Hawkins mortuary and burned more than 30 bodies.
They pulled out about 10 or 15 of them, just laid them all over the floor, like they meant to inform you that we mean to do damage to you. Not only did they steal everything, you know, that they put their hands on, why burn up dead bodies who are dead is stupidity. Police department informed that's a form of gangs to inform you that is to hate to do damage to you.
A few months later, there was another arrest. James Hawkins, Jr., to face a pretrial hearing on the charge of having murdered Antoine Thomas.
They are not going to be satisfied until one of the Hawkins is pushing up daisies, because a bounty hunter is pushing daisies because of one of them. You know, they can outwait the police, and they are going to wait and wait and wait and wait.